Secure commercial real estate investments, finally made possible in an accessible and affordable way, granting you complete freedom to manage your portfolio. A disruptive and innovative blockchain-backed platform that keeps your money completely secure while efficiently unlocking new possibilities. Sign up today at accrue.co.
Well, what a great discussion there. Just to echo Andrew's points, a huge thank you to Commissioner Peirce for her insights there. Now we have over 12,000 of you viewing from all over our different live streams. And if you are watching us live, thank you so much for joining in. But I do recommend you go over to securitytokensummit.com so you can join some of the networking that is live. Now, our next panel marks a revolutionary breakthrough announcement that's been in the works for some time, and our audience is really excited to share it with you. So here to share with us their grand reveal, please help me to welcome Amy and David of Ownera, Michael Shaulov of Fireblocks, Dan Truque of Symbiont, and Allison Kaufman of Circle, and also Mark Mayerfeld of GK8. So take it away.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the panel. So today we're going to talk about digital securities in the institutional space. And we're going to talk about a project that is aiming to solve one of the biggest problems in this space, and that is holding the market really, which is interoperability and interconnectivity between different platforms. We've been working on this for quite a while as a group under the GDF. Anthony, my partner, spoke about this earlier. And we'll speak about this in more details. But first, let's have some introductions. So I'm the CEO and founder of Ownera. And our role, our kind of mission is to interconnect the digital security space. Michael, let's move over to you.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Michael Shaulov. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Fireblocks. We provide secure infrastructure for financial institutions, primarily for custody technology, digital asset transfer technology, and also the ability to issue and mint tokens. Excited to be here.
And congratulations on your latest news and cooperations with institutions. So it definitely seemed like the institutions are coming.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it in a minute. Allison, please.
Hi, everyone. My name's Allison. I'm a solutions engineer over at Circle. Circle is really focused on building payments and treasury infrastructure for the internet, so helping people to update their businesses and digitize. And we work together with Coinbase to make up the Center Consortium, bringing the USD stablecoin to the world, which is backed 1-to-1 with the US dollar.
Thank you. And Mark?
Hi. GK8, I'm Mark Mayerfeld, Chief Revenue Officer of GK8. We're a blockchain-based cybersecurity company. We offer an end-to-end custody solution that's really geared for both private blockchains and public blockchain, both key management solutions as well as wallet management infrastructure. Similar to what Michael mentioned, we also provide minting and burning of tokens, as well as an entire infrastructure, soup to nuts, for a bank to get into digital assets.
Thank you. And Dan, please.
Hi, everybody. How are you? I'm Dan Truque. I lead business development for alternative assets at Symbiont. Symbiont is a permission blockchain company. We're one of the old timers on the industry. We've been around for 7 years now, and we've launched some large networks with key financial players in the industry. So we have several clients, like the most notable one is Vanguard, who has been using one of our networks for managing 1.5 trillion worth of assets. And we're currently working on several other solutions with large financial players to drive adoption at the institutional level. So that's why what we're about to announce, it's really exciting.
Great. So I'll give some context about what we've been working on, and then we'll jump into a discussion. I think we just heard from Commissioner Peirce that effectively all securities will be digitized, and I think all institutions agree with that. And we're seeing a lot of projects within institutions to digitize private markets and other securities. But the problem is that there are so many technologies out there and so many technology providers, and there's no way for them to actually interconnect and connect between them. And without this interconnectivity, we're just going to have a lot of islands and silos, and the market cannot grow in the same way that Bitcoin can grow or other markets, DeFi and so on. So it's a critical component for the creation of this market. So over the last few months, we've all connected in a group called GDF, Private Markets Digitization Group, which collected some 70 group members from across the industry, and we worked on a protocol that will enable us to interconnect the market. This protocol is called FinP2P, Financial Peer-to-Peer. FinP2P is now published as an open source specification, so anyone can go to Google and look for FinP2P, and you will find the full specifications there. And what we've done is we've done a POC, because we didn't want just to do a protocol. We also wanted to show that it's actually worked before we publish it. So we did a POC at the beginning of the month where 10 companies connected together for an hour and a half of going through script that actually prove interoperability. And in practical terms, what it means is that every asset can launch with a specific institution running on any platform with a custody provider, with settlement solution, with digital securities platforms, and then they can offer and publish their asset on the network. And then from across the network, other users using other platforms can come in and do transactions. Those transactions are routed through FinP2P, which is a routing network. It's not a blockchain, it's a routing network that routes transactions. Every user has a unique ID across the platform. So as the user, I can hold private securities on multiple platforms, and it's completely transparent for me. So before we go into discussion, I want to show a video of that hour and a half, which we condensed to 8 minutes. And what I will show you is 10 different integrations. It's going to be quite a lot, so buckle up. But I think it's important to see that this is an initiative with some serious force behind it, where the industry is kind of really committed to interconnect and bring digital securities to the market. So let me put on the video. It will take a second. Hi, everyone. Over the last few months, we've been working on the FinP2P interconnectivity network. It's a routing network that connects financial institutions for the issuance, trading, and instant settlement of digital securities.
We're interconnecting 10 different diverse platforms through using the FinP2P APIs. And I don't think that has been done to this scale with this amount of diversity.
The first interoperability functionality we're going to show is going to be based on Fabric. Let's imagine I'm in with Bank UK, and I'm going to go as an admin into the Node dashboard. And one of my assets is called Huli. Now, let's assume I want to share Huli with other institutions. Now, let's look at the user from Bank US. Let's say Bob. Choose 1,000 shares for $1,000. Confirm transaction. And the transaction is done.
Okay, great. So for those that aren't familiar, for this FinP2P integration, we integrated our Project Whitney demo. The idea is that it's a centralized platform that connects to multiple blockchains to allow for the tokenization of assets. So the scenario we'll look at here is for our issuer 21, who is Driftwood Interiors, a Delaware-based corporation. So I'll come to our security master file, and I'll go create an asset for issuer 21, which is Driftwood that we just saw. It's going to be a Reg D 506C security, US Delaware-based corporation. Here we'll use public Ethereum. Next is the rules that we can associate with the security. So when I create those, we'll see a new TSIN, that's a tokenized security identification number of 131. You can see there's Driftwood Interiors. So the next step would be to do our book upload process. So this is really the primary offering, if you will. Now we have the option of those 1,000 outstanding shares, some to investor 73, which is Alice, who we can give her 200, but then the other 800 shares will push out into the FinP2P network here. Admin can enable this asset for its owners, which will allow them to take part in this primary offering. We'll come and we'll allow, of those 800 shares available, Rob can take 250 of them, confirm that transaction, trying to buy those assets, and we should see an approval here, and as that transaction is validated.
Moving on, I'm going to now do a Corda script. So I'm going to click Invest, and effectively on the front end, it should look exactly the same, but we will see in the back end that the transaction is actually registered on Corda rather than on Fabric. So this is a Fabric to Corda example. Again, I'm going to put 500 shares just to see different numbers. Confirm transaction. The transaction is done.
On an asset, an ETF, where they are the control location associated with that particular fund. I'm going to bring it into my brokerage and engage in transactions with that particular asset on a variety of different networks. Now, what's cool about the FinP2P framework, of course, is I actually don't care which ledger was used for the issuing of that asset. I think in this case, it might be Corda, it might be Symbiont, or maybe Fabric, I'm not sure. Actually, it doesn't matter. From my perspective, we're going to pull it out and transact in the Stellar network. And now he's going to actually transfer it via the Stellar network, peer-to-peer. And again, this is an atomic cross-ledger transfer. It has been a very straightforward process. It's cool to be able to interact with all the other financial institutions and all the distributed ledger technologies that are connected in. And that general focus that I and team have had on hub and spoke model, where you basically make your connection and that allows you to connect to all the other pieces without having to do point-to-point connections, is the way this market is going to need to evolve.
I'm going to show the integration that we've done with Fireblocks. Let's start with the custody process. We're going to try to buy the Monsters shares with the Fireblocks custody service. Let's say 1,000 shares for $15,000. Now, what's going to happen now when I click confirm transaction is that the custody process will start. I'm supposed to get a message on my phone, which I just received. And I'm going to, on my phone, I'm doing the approval, and then it's going to do my face recognition as well. Okay, I got it approved here, and you can see it's approved here as well. Now, the second transaction we're going to show is we're going to try and show a transaction through Fireblocks USDC through Ethereum. You will see that we furnished Bob in advance with some money on the USDC Fireblocks account. Now they can go to Duke, click invest, choose the Fireblocks USDC account, 1 share for $25. Let's go back to follow live what's happening in the Fireblocks platform. So the first thing that happened is a transaction that basically puts the money in freeze until the security is actually being transferred on the Corda blockchain. And you can see that it's now broadcasting. We can find the transaction live, and you can see that ERC20 tokens. There's a transaction from 42 seconds ago.
A functionality in Fireblocks that is called Transfer Assist that basically is able to coordinate two digital legs. And one of them, in this case, is transferring the shares, and the other one is transferring a stable coin.
So here what we're seeing is the Symbiont node. So you see here up on the left, it's Symbiont. We've had the 2 companies that I mentioned that we have. So if I click here, for example, on Macmillan Toys, we can see who are the investors. We are going to see that the investors are Bertha, Michael, and Dan. Bertha, and actually see the asset because Macmillan Toys was shared with the FinP2P network. So Bertha has invested in it. Michael from Symbiont has invested in it directly through the node. I'm going to have Michael buy some more stock on Macmillan Toys. So I just go here, I click invest. This is essentially the view on the Symbiont network itself. So this is looking at the blocks directly.
So now, the way that it works with GK8 is that when I create the transaction, GK8 is doing their 2-factor authentication through an SMS. So when I click confirm transaction here, I'm going to soon get an SMS message. Waiting for it. It's arrived now. I'm going to click the link here. It was successful on my phone, and it was actually executed successfully as well.
In this particular case, GK8 is providing the MPC solution for the Ownera environment, but GK8 does provide a full end-to-end digital asset platform, including very unique cold vault as well as a patented MPC solution.
Victor, a custody solution in this model. When I click invest, confirm transaction. Now what happens is I need to go to the Pictor screen, and now you will see that there is a request for signature. Now I have a physical dongle that is connected to my computer. So at this point I need to click approve, and then I need to click platform, and now I need to touch this device. And after touching it, it's approved. And now if we go back, then the transaction is done.
So Pictor is doing both the custody of digital assets, so any type of assets being on public blockchain or private permission blockchain, security token, or crypto assets. What is specific about Pictor is a network of financial institutions that we use to decentralize the custody.
Okay, so here we have a user, and Trent today will attempt to purchase some shares of Sirius Cybernetics. So we click invest. We use IVNO USD. It's worth noting that IVNO tokens can be of any denomination, and we click confirm transaction. We'll see the transaction sign in the background and validate, and the shares are actually moving from the Fabric chain. The settlement's occurring on quarter.
IVNO is all about instant value transfer based on a tokenized underlying asset. One of our out-of-the-box solutions is BlackRock money market funds.
Circle is actually the company behind USDC, and therefore the connectivity here is to accounts within Circle itself. I'm going to make an investment, and this time I'm going to choose the Circle, and I'm going to take, let's say, 3 shares for $30. The money is being transferred from the buyer's USDC account within Circle to the seller USDC account within Circle.
Circle is a money services business, so we do fiat to USDC on-ramps and off-ramps. And this is kind of like the anchor product for Circle, which is just a USDC bank account, essentially. And then you can create a sub-account architecture for clients or sellers, for example. Beyond the anchor product of the USDC bank account are the APIs.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. Thank you. So this was a kind of, I think, a power show of so many ledgers, custody providers, settlement, everybody connecting and doing something that was considered a few months ago impossible, but is now possible. So, and all the front ends you've seen, it's all API based. So any platforms can be connected and built on top of that. Let me start with you guys. What was your experience in interconnecting to FinP2P? Maybe I'll start with you, Dan. You have a ledger that you wanted to connect. So how was the experience actually?
Sure. So I think overall, like our integration with FinP2P was very straightforward. We had already been working for a while with large financial partners for over 2 years already, like developing functionality to eventually release a private securities network that runs on our permission blockchain platform. So prior to engaging with FinP2P, we already had all these smart contracts created that were callable via an API. And given that FinP2P has a very well-documented API, really all we had to do was create a simple adapter, essentially an API sandwich layer that would translate our APIs into FinP2P's APIs, just kind of like connect the piping. By the way, Ownera was super helpful in helping us clarify a few points, but overall it was a smooth process. Also, as Ami mentioned, like in this case, actually the UI, the user interface, was provided for the pilot, so we didn't have to worry about creating a front end, which is something that our clients on the permission network can provide themselves, or in the future we can make something available. But I think that's one of the powers of the FinP2P protocol, that because it's API driven, you can just plug it into whichever user interface you need.
Thank you. Allison, what was your experience in the connecting to FinP2P from Circle?
Yeah, I'd like to echo a lot of the points that Dan made. I think it's a pretty seamless connection between the FinP2P protocol and sort of Circle's infrastructure as well. As my colleague Nikhil kind of went over, USDC is kind of at the heart of everything that happens within Circle, but we've built a host of APIs on top of that people can use to kind of integrate with us to create that kind of on-ramping and off-ramping functionality, as well as that sub-account kind of ledger functionality beneath it. So it's a pretty, obvious fit with what Ownera is doing and with the FinP2P protocol, and being able to kind of provide these institutions with not only kind of this ledger infrastructure for instant settlements, but also for a way for them to do on-ramps and off-ramps for both the crypto and the traditional worlds.
Thank you. And Michael, we've done integration with Fireblocks on 2 fronts. We did both custody service, and I know that you're providing custody service for crypto. So we'd love to hear what it means for you to provide custody services for digital securities as well. And separately, we also provided settlement through you. So that was 2 integrations. So what was your experience like?
Yeah, two birds in one stone, right? I think that overall, I mean, I think that the teams worked fantastically together. I think it was a pretty smooth integration, right? And we've seen clearly it's not trivial in this space, especially as the ledgers that were introduced were private ledgers across like multiple different ledgers. So that was a fairly streamlined process from our end. Clearly, you guys were very knowledgeable about and learned very quickly our APIs and how to trigger them, and also how to basically set up all the policies and be able to demo the power of the platform, and the power not only like the platform as something that can sign on transaction like typical custodians, but really the power of all the workflows and the approval flows, and how you can really simulate a real scenario. And then I think you guys really took it farther to not only on the custody side, but really take real life examples where you need to settle the entire flow, including with USDC, right? That is a great partner for us. You know, we just generally speaking, I think right now 15% of our flow is basically USDC. So the power of basically using the settlement rail against the custody is a really cool integration that we were able to show here.
Great.
And by the way, in my conversations with the banks that we are working with and the banks that we are contemplating on working with, I think that this settlement aspect against issued securities is in the heart of what they're looking for.
Yeah. So in effect, if your custodian service is provided to a bank or an institution through FinP2P, you can basically offer digital securities as well through one connection, rather than connecting to all the institutions separately. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mark, lastly with you, you're pretty strong on you come from the cyber world and security, and I know that you're doing cold wallets as well as hot wallets as well. So how is your interconnectivity to FinP2P?
Exactly. I mean, I think it echoes similar to what other people have mentioned. I mean, the FinP2P network, the beauty of it is the single API integration, where once integrated, pretty much we normalize all the various blockchains, and there's no need to be aware of it. So the cold vault that we have together with the MPC solution provides both a custody aspect of it, as well as a high frequency type of transaction perspective. So the integration was pretty much painless and done in record time. I mean, literally in a matter of days. And that provided both the cold and as well as the MPC solution.
Great. And later in Anthony's panel, you'll hear we'll see somebody from DTCC as well. So tune in later for Anthony's panel as well. And what I wanted to ask you now is really beyond the technology integration. What caused why was your company interested in connecting to FinP2P? Because obviously, it is a new protocol. You have to put some resources in it and connect. So what drove you to connect into it, and what services do you think that you can offer to this market of digital securities through this connection?
Should I start?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So I think that just like for the audience, I know Ami for quite a few years already, right? We go back to the fun days of 2018. I think that what you guys basically built is a pretty powerful team that was able to bring quite a lot of the institutions together, which is sort of non-trivial to create a consortium. So many people that they have basically came together for one cause. And I think what is really powerful about this, not only the technology, but just generally the goal, is that it really came in the right timing, right, for the industry, where I think that the economic around us is changing. Right? We seeing what's going on in the public markets. I can, and also on the private markets. I mean, I can probably share quite a lot given our latest round of funding. But it's not only Fireblocks. I mean, there are a lot of other basically private companies that are approaching valuations where you sort of trying to figure out, okay, what kind of a securities infrastructure is really required for everything that is going on. And without question, the dynamics that you guys created was sort of like the promise of creating this streamline or liquidity, essentially a real liquidity functionality for private market. I think for us, when we choose with who to partner on the long term and who should be a strategic partner, I think that there is a really strong alignment on the mission here. But nevertheless, I think also that partnering with someone who knows what to do and understand where things have failed in the past and what needs to be done now correctly is important. I think that you guys have the team in place to really do it.
Thank you. Allison, where do you think that where does Circle see the digital securities market, and what services are you offering for institutions? Obviously, one of the things that is critical for digital security is instant settlement, which is FinP2P is one of the biggest kind of things that we worked on, was to enable instant settlement of transaction from any blockchain to any blockchain, from any currency to any currency. So, in order to do that, you need digital money. And to get digital money running, you need off-ramp and on-ramps and so on. So tell us a little bit about, why you joined and what sort of services you can offer on the digital securities market.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of kind of where Circle sees ourselves coming into play with the FinP2P protocol, I think at the heart, our missions are one and the same. We want to help update and bring these traditional financial worlds and institutions kind of into this digital atmosphere, into this world of blockchain technology. And we want USDC to kind of be that underlying currency for all of that, because we believe that, it's as a stable coin, it's one of the most accessible and kind of realistic ways to get these institutions to kind of update and digitize and start working with digital securities and assets. And like you mentioned, part of that model and part of Circle kind of moving these businesses towards that place of the future is allowing us to connect the traditional worlds to the digital worlds. So, I think all of us are in agreement that in the future, we expect that digital securities are probably going to be the only securities. We're not going to be talking about the traditional world and the crypto world. We're just going to be talking about the crypto world, and that's kind of where everything's heading. But for the time being, that's not the world we live in. We live in a world where we do need to connect traditional methods of payments, things like wire transfers, ACH, debit and credit cards, and we need to allow people to have an accessible means into actually getting their hands on USDC and getting their hands on cryptocurrency. That's kind of where Circle comes into play. We offer that on-ramping solution for both cryptocurrencies such as USDC and for traditional payment rails, and the same on the way out. So we can also initiate those payouts as well through crypto and through traditional rails there. So kind of bringing those worlds together for the time being when we need to allow these institutions access to USDC. And then once they have USDC, kind of giving them all of the benefits that entails. So both kind of on-chain and off-chain settlements and transfers between accounts, allowing them access to a variety of different blockchains that USDC is supported on, and as well as what you all had mentioned with the instant settlement and just being able to kind of make payments globally in the blink of an eye, which is not something that you typically see in the traditional finance world today.
Yes, and when we connected USDC, one of the things that we've seen is that a lot of the institutions were talking about CBDCs, and there's going to be a panel about CBDCs later. And that's actually, that's definitely going to come, but it's not here yet. And I think that it's important to have solutions that are available today. We also connected IVNO, which is also a settlement solution for banks, and other options are available as well. But I think that one of the reasons in today's kind of panel is to say to the ecosystem, if you want to come in and connect your stable coins, your digital securities platform, your ledgers, and so on, then you're invited to do so. It's an open protocol, and you can connect as well. Mark, over to you a little bit on the custody side. Where do you see custody connecting to digital securities from your point of view? What are you seeing in the market there? This is one of the things that you're kind of focusing on.
Absolutely. GK targets the banks and the exchanges. Custody is clearly the starting point for digital securities and any aspect that banks need to deal with. We're very much involved on the regulation side. We're focused on very much being compliant with the OCC regulations, the BaFin, FINMA, etc. We have the largest insurance available in the market. So when banks are getting into the digital asset side of things, they need the comfort of having insurance together with the assets they're dealing with. We also have, among other things, some unique relationships with one of the big four, providing balance attestation. So when it comes to auditing and taxes, we're very much there. So a lot of the different variations people need in order to provide, to really get into the digital asset space, the G-Gate solution provides. And as I mentioned before, the custody side of things, as well as the trading and high frequency aspects of it. And keeping in mind, one of the unique aspects of, as opposed to cryptocurrency, which of course we're focused on both tokenization, cryptocurrencies, things like CBDC, but the performance level of crypto assets and traditional assets are quite different. And our performance on our MPC, as an example, handles thousands of messages per second. These are different aspects that a lot of the existing solutions are for cryptos may be sufficient, but when it comes to the digital asset world, the need for more higher performance is really paramount.
Yeah, and Dan, I left you for the end because your integration was unique in this group because you're bringing an entire blockchain effectively, Symbiont, and I wanted to ask you about your decision process in coming into a project like FinP2P because you're a competitor in the market as a blockchain provider. There are other multiple blockchain providers connected to FinP2P. I mean, Ethereum, Corda, Fabric, Stellar, and a few others. And once you're connected to everybody. So what was your decision process? How do you see this strategically as a provider of a blockchain in order to connect to a platform like that?
Yeah, so like in general, so we've been working on launching what would eventually be an enterprise private securities network for over a couple of years now. We've been working with some of the largest financial institutions to make this a reality. This network would offer like multiple services throughout like the full asset life cycle, from company registration to capital formation, secondary trading, and the overall governance of the securities on the network. But one of the challenges when launching a cross-company exercise like this, you have multiple parties that need to come together at exactly the same time. And one of the issues is that the network works if everybody kind of like jumps in at the same time. What we see in FinP2P is essentially an away liquidity solution. One of the advantages of FinP2P is that even if initially in the network liquidity is not plentiful, the party shouldn't be worried about joining because the liquidity can be accessed through FinP2P with investors in other networks, and by the same token, pun intended, you actually can have the investors in the network access assets that are somewhere else. So you get the benefit that you are attracting both the service providers into your network because they won't feel that they're kind of like stuck in this ecosystem only, but at the same time you're also attracting investors to your network for the same reason that they know that if they're on this network because we're connected to this broader ecosystem, they will be able to see those other opportunities. So really also like in terms of kind of like the strategic point of view, like okay, we are connecting to other blockchains that are technically competitors. In the future, like the reality is that we're going to have multiple digital asset marketplaces or ecosystems. It's very unlikely that there's going to be one to take it all. A solution like this actually lets the investors and the different issuers and service providers to try the different networks, and maybe somebody starts in another network and then they try ours, and then they if we have a superior product, then they'll stay on us and execute more of their transactions through our network. So I think it's also like in the future there's going to be multiple marketplaces, and this is a good way of positioning ourselves in that future ecosystem that's going to have like multiple venues where digital assets will trade.
Thank you. And I think this is a good segue to talk about the future of digital securities. Once we have this shared rails that everybody can connect to, and through one connection get access to everything, it's interesting to see what are the kind of digital securities types that you see kind of coming into this market first. So maybe we'll do it the other way around. Then we'll start with you now. What sort of assets are you seeing kind of in your ecosystem that are coming on board, platforms that could trade down the line on FinP2P?
So the areas that we're focusing on are twofold. One, on the private security side, so shares of private companies that would be trading within, within private markets. That may also include companies that would trade on Regulation A or Reg CF type of offerings, so kind of like mini IPOs. But then on the other side, we're looking at large financial institutions. They're very interested more on the fixed income side. So looking at bond issuance, and for example, like the ABS pilot that we did last year alongside Vanguard and Bank of New York and Citi and State Street, those type of like fixed income instruments, I think they have a lot of importance in the ecosystem, because they're also compatible, for example, with the smart collateral management that we're doing, where companies can actually exchange collateral with one another, facilitated by the blockchain, which allows for intraday collateral management. And if we actually then have native fixed income securities on chain, then those securities could actually be the securities that you're moving back and forth through this smart collateral management. So kind of like everything comes together from the fixed income side to the collateral management to the private securities, everything really becomes like the same, like an ecosystem that builds upon itself. And then actually earlier today, I was talking with Allison, of course, about the idea of having a stable coin also on the network, because you're also going to need like some type of payment rails. So, I mean, something like Circle Coin, for example, would be an ideal candidate to also add to that whole ecosystem of different securities. And now, like, of course, a currency that these large financial institutions can transact on.
Yes, you mentioned collateral, and obviously, you know, once you tokenize a digital asset, you can start seeing things like we're seeing in the DeFi market. Allison, you wanted to add something to that? I can say that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think just what Dan is talking about, I think our goal is to have USDC kind of be this backbone for all of these infrastructures that in these ecosystems that other companies are building. So whether it be kind of larger institutions or smaller startups who just are trying to kind of get their way into the crypto world, USDC can kind of be that kind of easy on-ramp for them, where it's not as risky as sort of investing in Bitcoin. Like, this is kind of just a new type of cryptocurrency for a lot of people. And I think it's really exciting to kind of have that be something where, you know, maybe it's not so crazy for a bank to now invest in something like a cryptocurrency if it's a stable coin.
Yes, yes. And you know, going back to something you said earlier, Michael, about private companies, and you're in that space now, you know, growth companies, raising capital. This is an area that's going through another parallel revolution right now with SPACs, kind of offering a lot of money for private companies to become public. In some cases, I think, you know, it makes a lot of sense for, you know, a company like eToro to go public. Makes total sense, you know, in the valuation. You know, I don't want to make any suggestion, but it seems to me like it makes sense. But we also see a lot of SPACs going down to the bottom, or offering, you know, to go public to companies that are very early or that are too early to go public. And the private market does not have an alternative that provides liquidity and capital almost at the levels of public, but while allowing the company to stay in control and stay private and so on. So just wondered, what do you think about it, Michael? What are you seeing in the market?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that I don't have, you know, I don't think I want to really share my opinion about SPACs in general. And of course, like there are very credible companies like eToro, which is like an amazing company. You know, there are and quite a few others. But you know, some cases that you see over the SPACs, it remind you the dark days of the ICOs, right? For people in this market. So I think that you know, if you sort of really want to build a big company and you don't want to basically deal with, I think, a negative, if it's not just like, you know, something that you want to throw out there and run away with it, right? I think that there is a lot of money right now in private markets, right? And a lot of companies will likely remain private for a long duration of time. And yet, on the flip side, there is a question around sort of valuation optimization. There is a question around earlier investors. I mean, and I'm speaking about it not only on behalf of Fireblocks, by the way, also as a sort of an angel investor in a lot of the most successful cybersecurity companies. I'm saying, like, you know, between me and my peers, that sort of as an angel investor that comes in the seed round and then a company you invested goes through $1 billion valuation. And there are a lot of questions that are being asked around, okay, how do you access liquidity if you already got to that point? And I think that really what we're seeing here with, and I know that, by the way, some of our customers, the banks that are also part of this project and part of the association, they're really looking at the private securities and essentially what FinP2P and those kinds of initiatives can bring them in. You know, they are clearly envy in the dynamic that is being created between among the big, you know, the big investors. You mean you see all the big asset managers jumping into the private market and investing in tech startups. And I think the banks, given the fact that maybe their investment banking is not going to see sort of the benefits of those company IPOing every Monday, are trying to figure out what's their strategy, right? And how they're basically going to play in this market as well. And I think that really sort of this kind of infrastructure gives them the optionality to join and create something which is unique, that has a real value proposition for all parties involved. And by the way, this is not like, just speaking in my own behalf. This is really sort of representing some of the voices of my customers on the banking side.
Yeah, and I think that if we are in a position to offer the market a shared network that allows people to trade digital securities, private companies can take a portion of the cap table, make it digital, and then have that trade among institutional investors in a very, very simple way. So that could be a solution for many companies in the space that are looking for this type of not just capital that they used to get from VCs, but also kind of more open liquidity, but while staying private.
Yeah, I mean, look, just to add to that, from my standpoint as an operator, it's sort of very clear that this is going down that path, and over the next couple of years, we won't see lawyers with a lot of paperwork writing SPAs. It will be digital.
Yes, I agree. And Mark, maybe to wrap up with you,
sure.
Strategically, where do you see digital securities as becoming the key market for you? Because we've seen, the way that I look at it is this: we've seen in the last 6 months, we've seen the market explode in digital. We've seen Bitcoin become institutional, seen stablecoins become huge. We've seen DeFi become successful. We've seen NFTs explode in the market. Well, we know that when a market goes digital, it suddenly goes boom. So the question is, with digital securities, given that now we have a shared network, when do you think that it will start to happen compared to crypto and take more and more of your kind of revenue potential and so on?
Sure. First of all, I won't knock eToro because they're one of our largest customers. So what they're doing is quite good. But there's clearly a place for the private market, as everybody's just mentioned. I mean, what we're seeing is, obviously, we're involved with a lot of projects in the security side. NFT you mentioned earlier, whether it be things like fine art or real estate, gold. Of course, these are all areas of interest that banks are working with. Many banks that have 20 to 25 different use cases over blockchain. Obviously, security, as a cybersecurity company, security is a key component of what the banks need here. But you mentioned something earlier with regard to institutional. How does it really explode? And I think I have a background quite a bit in the traditional markets, and I believe that prime brokerage is really the major step that needs to take off with regard to providing credit facilities in order for really for the institutional space to take off in the securities market.
Okay, I think we're kind of the connection is bad. I'm losing you a little bit. So let me wrap up. I think wrap up with a question, because I think we're all. When do you think we're going to start seeing digital securities become significant for financial institutions? Do you think it's 21, 22, 23? What is your kind of horizon on that? Let's do it around the clock. So Ben, we'll start with you.
Sure. I think towards the end of this year and next year, we're going to start seeing more and more adoption on big projects. So in terms of when is this going to go mainstream? I mean, I'm actually on the shorter end of the estimates. I would say that within the next 2 or 3 years. Also, just keep in mind that I'm biased because since 2 years ago, as I mentioned, Vanguard has been rebalancing over $1 trillion worth of assets. So that's, for us, we're already feeling that adoption.
Okay, so one thing I want to say about the FinP2P is that we are now in the process of, we just finished the POC where we integrated all of you, and we are now calling everybody to join and participate as well. The next stage of the pilot that we're doing is going to be to actually look at real assets, real use cases, and that's happening right now in process, and this will take probably 3 or 4 months. So if I had to answer the question, we're talking about probably the summertime as the beginning of this, with the first assets coming online, kind of really in force, and that will be the asset that will probably show the industry the way, and then from there it can grow. Allison, what is your expectation from Circle? When do you see this market kind of picking up steam?
Yeah, I think definitely sooner rather than later. I think next couple of years we're just going to see more and more adoption of people getting into the crypto world, into the blockchain space, wanting to kind of move their investments there. I think there's just a lot of value there that we can add. And I think with things like the FinP2P protocol that are connecting people together, connecting these partners together, making it even easier to kind of join this new ecosystem. Yeah, I think it's really going to take off quite quickly.
Great. And Michael, you're doing now, I think I heard 7% of the crypto market is running through your platforms, Michael. So when do you expect to start seeing significant numbers, or do you see this as something that's going to become a significant portion of your business in the coming future?
I think 18 months. If I had to give a reasonable estimate, given where those projects are now, I think 18 months will actually be, what I would consider like a real production beginning, right? I mean, there are a lot of things that are happening now, of course, but sort of something that includes more than one participant and not an internal use case or a POC, I think, we start to see it in 18 months.
Yeah. Okay. I'm hoping to see it earlier, at least with some of because
I mean production. This is sort of
production. I think that the first kind of test cases are coming up really soon. The first like 10 assets and so on, and then it will start growing from there. And as we know, financial institutions take their time to build adoption and grow the market. Mark, I can see you're back with us. Do you have any closing?
Back with us. So I mean, we're definitely seeing the first movers with the tier 1 banks that we're involved with that are handling proof of concepts right now. But I think realistically, 12 to 24 months to really get mass adoption. I think the important piece is it's got to be as easy and secure for the banks to take part in this and the end customers, so that their experience is going to be from day one similar to what they're doing in the traditional asset space.
Great. So I'll just end the session with a call for everybody who's watching to go to FinP2P, to search FinP2P on Google and go to the specification document and work with us and just join the network and connect. As you've seen, it's quite easy to connect, and there's a lot of value in being part of the ecosystem. And thank you to the panelists. Thank you very much, and handing back over to Adam.